I guess the only place I can really start this is to just ask, it's been a while since we've spoken to each other. What the hell is going on?
What, in terms of the planet or?
The whole planet.
It was only a matter of time before something actually happened. Bill Gates coined it in 2007, where he basically said something like this was going to happen. All the conspiracy theorists seem to think Bill Gates is obviously the driving force behind trying to cull the human race, rather than actually looking at the very real thing that we're just consuming everything, you know. And you have these wet markets where they have the animals, they're not exactly sanitary, you know. We are just a ticking time bomb, aren't we?
Yeah. I think I saw a statistic, and I'm going to butcher this completely, but basically that this kind of thing where a new disease comes out of somewhere like China almost like 4 or 5 times a year, and it's just a matter of it being contained, and this is just one time where it's got out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, actually, you said the name wrong for the country. You want to say it in the Trump-esque way of China.
Yeah, it's what I think has made me the saddest about all of this, on top of everything, obviously that's bad about a disease that kills people. It's just the way that people have treated each other. The vitriol that people have for letting someone else get enough loo roll or get their shopping.
What is that about, the loo roll? When did that become currency?
Yeah, well, it's more to the point. It's like, I just look at the symptoms and I'm thinking, yeah, no, I don't think like mass evacuation of bowels is very high up the list.
No. I mean, I know a lot of people are full of shit, but they generally have that within themselves and they keep it there, you know.
So how are you keeping yourself busy?
Yeah, Mandy, my model, is
yes,
my plastic model is doing really well for me.
Yeah,
I've always got stuff to do. You know, I've always got something I can write. I've always got something I've broken I need to fix. I've always got something I want to learn. Yeah, it's all right. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not exactly a shut-in, but I like being at home with the family because I like my family. I mean, I know a lot of people can't say that, but I actually like being around my family. It's so weird.
You weirdo.
I know, freak. Also, going back to what you said about people not being kind. Yeah. Honestly, it does my head in. It really, really does. It just doesn't take a great deal to just, even if you've been a bit nasty to someone, you can stop and go, you know what, I'm really sorry. Kind of got that wrong. Yeah, sorry. And that just goes a long way, rather than just being a bellend all the time. It's no good for anyone.
I'm amazed just by how spiteful people can be towards people they don't even know. It's one thing to have someone that you don't like and that these times stress that even further, but to have it, I've seen people at shops having full-blown arguments. I've seen one woman absolutely tear a 17-year-old girl to pieces who was working on a till because she didn't have something. And I'm just staggered by the nastiness towards anybody that will just stand in front of you.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many aspects to this. Like fear makes people do stupid things. And sometimes people just do stupid things because they're just not very pleasant or they're a bit stupid. It leads back into education. It leads back into just mindset. I mean, it's just like the field is too far and too wide to kind of categorize everyone. But when people are just being nasty because they're not getting what they want, that's when it all breaks for me. And it brings out the worst in me when I see people behaving like that.
Well, Jamila studies, she studied criminal psychology, and something that was really interesting when she was doing her master's was she talked to me about how the idea from a psychological point of view of how many sexually deviant people there were in the world crazily changed when the internet came about and you could actually see more and more of how just the sheer scope of how many people were kind of gross human beings. It feels this pandemic feels like it's kind of brought out the arsehole version of that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it was it the 50s or was it the 70s, wasn't it, when the Bureau, the FBI, started forming their investigative unit into looking at like deviances, and they reclassed various things, like lesbianism, and and it was all kind of reclassed, and it was like a moving target. I mean, with these people where they're behaving, arsehole, 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 arsehole level 2, arsehole level 3.
Well, the game now is to find someone that's not.
Yeah, I know. It's so where we live, it's like a nice little close, and everyone's quite pleasant and nice, and no one really kind of talks to each other because that's just the 21st century. I say hello to a few of them, blah blah blah. Knocked on a few doors and said to some of the older people here, they answered the door really gingerly, and I was like, do you need anything? And they kind of at first, they said, what do you mean? And I was thinking, oh God, I'm going to mug them, aren't they? And then I said, no, if you need anything down the shop, not, do you need anything? I'm taking everything else, And then another neighbour who we saw a few days later, they started a WhatsApp group, for our close. And, there's messages pinging there. Do they need anything? Waitrose, do you need this? Do you need that? We've got like a young girl comes out at 5 o'clock every day, and she plays her violin.
Right.
And it's just quite nice. But and sort of like the thing is, when she's playing the violin, there's I think the book's called basically it's about a cellist in Sarajevo who goes out during wartime to play the cello, and there's a sniper trying to kill her, and all these other snipers trying to shoot. So when I was looking at this girl with the violin, I'm looking around for snipers.
You're checking all the windows.
Yeah, checking the windows, But no, it's good. It's nice to see people just behaving nicely.
Yeah, I mean, there has been the real thing that I've been amazed by is just the sense of community that has come out of some aspects. The people coming out to cheer the NHS workers. I do wish they would just say health workers, because there are non-NHS health workers, but they're out there cheering. There seems to be some people that are out there to support. But I'm just absolutely staggered by the desire to be horrible when really that's the last thing we need right now.
I know. It's also I never know just how much is truth, and I don't trust the media.
No.
No matter what I'm reading, I don't trust, because you can't help but write something with bias. It's just the way that it is. And there are a lot of articles coming out about NHS workers having their cars smashed and stuff, and you think, bloody hell, these NHS workers, they put in long days and they move people about, and I mean it's like being a bloody builder half the time, because you have to pick people up and move them about. Obviously not if you're like actually just working a canteen, but with regards to the media, something I said to Jamila, she doesn't watch the news as a rule because it's a device to depress people. But when she was sort of flicking through the news to see sort of, what the progression of what was going on was, I said, you need to pay very, very close attention to the language, because there's a difference between someone dying of coronavirus and someone with coronavirus dying. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and there's also the headline always starts off with 12-year-old dead, and you think bloody hell, and it also the 12-year-old had leukemia, and there's all the underlying factors, and then they come up with things like someone's just died, youngest person who's got it, and there's no underlying health issues, but it could have had a heart murmur, not a heart murmur, but they could have had just something going on, and it's just the media, they want to make people scared. I mean, the conspiracy theories right now, I'm loving it. They're having an absolute field day. I mean, it's a shame.
It's a shame Alex Jones is banned from everything, because Alex Jones would be eating this up right now.
And he was a right unimaginative bellend, wasn't he? He was because he was saying about all the crisis actors at Sandy Hook. Yeah. And then you had all these parents coming up. If it was my kid that was killed, no, you don't exist. It's like, yeah, I do. And then. I don't get me wrong. There are loads of conspiracy theories that actually are quite valid. But if anything big is going on and everyone thinks they know about it, then I guess why would Jill or John down the street know about what's going on? I mean, massive like global new world order. I just don't think that they trust Jill or John.
Yeah, no, it's that idea that like there's an entire secret government hidden behind the main government that has all-seeing eyes, controls everybody, has surveillance in every single home, but somehow Kevin from Cardiff has figured out the secrets.
So, because actually, I had to stop myself there, because when I said Jill, it was just the first thing that came to my head. And there's all these things where it says, Karen from Facebook. And I thought, that's been written by some white guy who's just sitting in his mum's basement, and I thought, I've got to catch myself and don't go down that Karen from Facebook route.
Yeah.
But I do believe in deep state, and deep state does exist. Not in terms of conspiracy theories, but just you have lower echelon. Is it an echelon? Or is it a higher echelon? But you have,
I'd say
degrees
higher
of government. Yeah, you have. Okay, we'll call it bowels then. You have bowels in government that do kind of dodgy things, and every government has dodgy. They do dodgy things. I mean, the British government. Oh dear God, some of the things that we've done. And it emerges. But I don't believe it's to the state where we've got these fourth dimensional beings that we're somehow feeding our negative energy to, and we need another world war to feed them. That doesn't fly for me. I think there's just a lot of selfishness. I think the wet markets, and I think it's just all come to a head.
Yeah, I think when we look at the way that countries differ in terms of their health and hygiene when it comes to food, it's quite easy to see where something like this has come from.
Oh, of course. And also, everyone says China. Everyone blames China. It has come out of China, don't get me wrong. And they've got a lot of people there. They've got quite an oppressive regime. But, I've seen bigger savages in London restaurants, not washing their hands, just dropping food on plates. And you think just because we consider ourselves more civilized, it's not the case. Well, I say we, I don't. It's just not the case. It really, really isn't. We've got absolute savages over here. It's savages in every nation. I've went to a few places in the US, and honestly, it was like dining in the third world.
Well, you know what? There was a push a couple years ago to have. Maybe it's still going on and it's just not newsworthy anymore. But there was a push to have unisex bathrooms as opposed to having individual bathrooms for men and women. And I remember saying to my wife, if you guys want to go down that route, you feel free. If you've ever been to a male toilet at a service station and you want to have part of that, you go for it.
Yeah, and also because all the sort of people that are transitioning from male to female, you bet your damn life they're going, don't share with the men, don't share with the men, because they know what men are like,
Yeah, we'll just leave the male toilets just for men.
Yeah, we're not doing that. They can have that because men are savages. You just want to look at the parents occasionally and go, did you not teach your son to pick the seat up?
Honestly, I was headed to a wedding last year, pretty late last year, and I walked into a service station bathroom on the way there. And they have those stainless steel circular sinks where it has the hand wash section and the tap section. It all drains into one.
Yeah.
And there's a guy with his cock out just pissing straight into that.
Oh, bless.
And I was just I'm cool. I'll hold it. I'll head off. I'll hold it. I'll figure it out when we get there.
In all fairness, I do honestly consider service stations to be alternative countries. You're in a country where the rules all differ.
Yeah. People eating donuts at 9 a.m.
Yeah, when you're a kid, you're just like, this is the best thing ever. I can play video games. So your parents are just thinking, man, this is wrong. This is like neural programming. They're going to come at this with a bad idea about society. We send them down a bad path.
Yeah.
But I honestly, also I found a lot of the northern, service stations are actually far cleaner than the ones when you get down to London. The London one, I don't know whether or not maybe it's just too many people or whatever, but they're just savages. The nearer you get to London, the worse they get.
Yeah, I think it is just a sheer volume of people. I definitely agree with you on that. And when we've headed north, generally, I also find just in terms of service, people are a lot nicer. I think it's just because they have to deal with a lot less nonsense. Whereas in London, you've just got wave after wave after wave. There's no real end to the people.
I think you almost become numb to the service industry in London if you don't sort of pay attention to it, because a lot of people have never had to actually deal with arseholes continually telling them how shit they are or how crap their service is.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, I honestly don't understand how a lot of it works, because you just have to look at yourself in the mirror every day and think, I'm not a douchebag. And if you've been a bit of a douchebag, you kind of need to roll it back a bit.
Well, I was looking at the fact that, like, right now, my business is just hemorrhaging money because so much work is being pushed back month on month. And I was thinking, like, God, you know, I turned away from having a very stable job to having a job where now, you know, something like this could be really difficult for me. And then I started to remember why I left my stable job, and it was because I worked in the service industry and someone tried to stab me with a used needle. And I think, no, I'm good. I'm fine with being bankrupt but alive.
Yeah, exactly. That's a tough one, isn't it? Yeah.
So I have to ask. We're going to turn the corner on this. We're going to make this a positive one now that we've just called the entire country scum.
Absolutely.
What is it that is keeping you busy? Are you watching anything, like any good films? Are you doing any educating of yourself? What are you doing?
Lots and lots of educating.
Yep.
Oh gosh, I'm setting up. I'm doing continual setups with my mannequin and just sharing out videos. I've just been doing a load of them. I'm trying to write. I'm really glad you spun that into a positive thing, because I'm actually quite a positive person.
Yeah, I'm not, so I have to really doctor myself.
Well, I wasn't always, and if I allow myself, I slide back into that I hate people mentality, you know, because they're just killing everything.
Right.
But my wife's very positive, and she keeps me on the up and up. So I've just written a blog piece about, because my back is absolutely destroyed, and I destroyed it through being a pro BMXer, rent rider. I did loads of martial arts. I did loads of stuff that basically I didn't. When I was BMXing, I never thought I'd live past the age of 21. So I was just stupid, you know. I just did everything. And then you get past 21 and think, okay. And then you kind of move on a bit, and got to the point now, well, back just over 3 years ago, I couldn't walk properly.
Yeah.
And so back's destroyed. But now through Pilates, changing my diet, giving up alcohol, all manner of stuff, I'm sort of now, I can do weights. So now I'm trying to sort of be positive about my body. It doesn't hurt anymore. And I'm going to write, I've written a blog piece about it, about how I got to that particular point in time where it no longer hurts, and I can go out and walk for 5 or 6 miles if I want, and I can do weights and just everything else. But yeah, so I'm trying to write some positive blog pieces. What else? I've written 45 chapters of a book that I kind of put on. I know. I kind of put
romance
it on
novel. Is it a romance novel?
Of course, darling. Yes. It's written my love for you. Yeah. and at the end of it, I'm going to come after you with a needle.
All right. I like the twist.
Yeah. You're having it, Sonny. No, it's just basically about like an agency that polices parallel universes. And there have to be certain events happen at certain times, and they make sure those events happen, even if someone's getting killed or whatever. But then something's happening to the world. The world's just starting to what they call turn black. And it means when an event hasn't happened in that particular universe, nature just basically turns on itself, and the world just gets destroyed through various interesting ways. It gives me some interesting narratives to actually just write little vignettes about how we're going to kill.
I'm not going to lie, Andrew. It sounds like that's what you think's happening to Earth right now.
Well, I was thinking I could spin a coronavirus one into this, but I thought
you absolutely could, yeah.
Yeah, but that's and it's just this young kid who's basically a bit of a waster, and it's his journey through the organisation, and they're trying to find out who's doing what and how. And so so I've got that on the back boil. I've just back boiler. I've just written another 2 chapters for that. It's really hard to get people to proofread it, because you say to them, "Do you want to read my story?" They go, "Yeah, sure." And then you give them. I think they think you're going to give them a page or two. You go up 45 chapters, and then the next thing you hear is them just going, "Oh yeah, I've got to babysit Charlie." Who's Charlie?
Yeah,
he's an action man. You know, yeah. So it's really hard to get any kind of feedback on it, because it's just so big. So you have to say to someone, "Do you want to read an entire book?" And they go, "Oh, So
what you need to do is you need to front load the guilt. You need to message them and say, seeing as you're not doing anything because you're currently stuck indoors due to lockdown thanks to coronavirus, I thought you'd enjoy reading this book that I've written. And then they don't have a choice. They can't go, oh, I was just about to head out.
Oh, trust me. If I thought people would even react to it now, they're just like, nah.
Oh, right.
You see the message come up and it says read, and then you see offline.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so basically the second this all started, and I knew that like my work was sort of disappearing for a couple months, I figured it was a good time to focus on doing remote podcasts, teach myself how to do it, and start contacting people. And because I can now contact people from sort of further distances and people that would have been out of reach before, I started messaging, and some of the I've had like some people that have just sent me a message back that just says like pay ? And then I've had other people that have said what's in it for me? And then I've had other people that have just left it on read, and it's just so funny watching the different way that people react. It's one of my favorite things is someone who basically measured the metric of whether or not he wanted to do it by checking how many followers I had on my various accounts and adding them together. And I said that at that point, I was like, you probably just don't want to do it. Let's just leave it there.
It's shame you couldn't see my face then, because I was just eye rolling, like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Actually, I really enjoyed talking to you, because I always feel like I had quite a good laugh and I have a good chat. And at the end of it, I've not got to the end of it and thought, I am contractually, I'm done now. I'm no longer obligated. It's just,
at the end of the podcast, you just walk away and cry.
Yeah, I drop my phone on the floor. I'm like, oh, God. There are a lot of douchebags out there, and everyone's on the make. And I get that. Everyone wants to get their own brand out there, but your brand has to have some kind of integrity. And also, a lot of people, they really do think their stock's higher than it is, because loads of people like their images. And I look at a lot of photographers, and this isn't meant out of any kind of bitchiness, and I just look at their work and think, why? Why are you shooting 2 stops under? Why are you dragging out the shadows? Is it because you've not learned what a strobe is?
Yeah. Well, that seems to be a trend at the moment, right? That seems to be a bit of a Sony trend of just underexpose everything and then drag it up and then sell a tutorial on how to do that.
Oh God, just don't. The amount of people that I consider to be peers and that I kind of came up with who are just doing tutorials now. And I almost want to buy them just to see how bad they are, And I don't want to see their Photoshop. Yeah, because if they give you the raws, then you can go, oh yes, a howler, But undoubtedly, they will probably give you PSDs as reference files that they've already tinkered with just a bit, and then we'll say, yeah, this was the raw.
Right. Yeah. No, it's well, it's an unintended consequence of the internet, right? It just now everyone's an expert on everything. So with everyone trapped indoors and potentially not making any money, the best way to do it is to kind of sell presets and sell tutorials.
Yeah, presets are just I mean, there's some pretty cool tools out there actually, but just bog standard presets. I mean, I don't know about you, but I can't find one preset that I can apply to my images that would just work for everything. It just doesn't happen. I mean, on the whole, when I'm processing and I've got a load of batch stuff going on, I literally just stick a curves layer on all of them or whatever, and then I start from there after I've white balanced it in Capture One. The idea of applying a filter to something just blows my mind. It really does.
Well, I think as well, it's kind of it's an interesting. It's an interesting irony because it's people that want to be constantly recognized as being sort of interested in photography and interested in Photoshop and so on, selling you a way that you can spend as little time as possible doing it because it's such a drudge to do it. So it's like, so are you enthusiastic about it or do you hate it? Which way do you go with it? It seems to be incredibly ironic.
Actually, that is brilliantly summarized. Actually, yeah, because it does. I mean, when you're learning Photoshop at first, you just look at it and your brain and your heart just sinks, doesn't it? It's because every time you think you've got something, it doesn't apply to the next photograph. You go, oh God, and then for a while you go through your dragging up the shadow phase, and then you go through your noise phase, and then you go through your high key phase, until you get to the point where you suddenly realise, should we just get it right balanced and looking okay and then maybe tweak it? But mean, I don't know about you, but I don't consider my stuff to be stylized at all, because I don't deliberately set out to try and make it look a certain way. You know, it sounds really pretentious, but the image kind of tells me what it wants. I can kind of see what it needs, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think I have a particular sort of color palette that I work towards. I'm more down to just things that it's not down to what I love, but it's more down to what I hate. Like I'm personally a really big, I have a real dislike for incredibly saturated bluey greens. So I'm always working hard to take those down. But it's not a case of it being like, I feel like I have a look. It's just more a case of, I think that naturally as you edit, I mean, I edit probably about 150,000 photos a year minimum with weddings and whatnot, that I'm going to naturally end up at the same point quite a lot when it comes to colors.
Yeah, of course.
But I don't think it's a case of having like a drag and drop preset that just can easily do anything. I have sort of go-to markers for presets that are like, okay, well, I know I like my blacks here, I like my shadows here, and I like my highlights here, and I like my greens to do this. And then everything else, the image is going to talk to me and tell me in which direction it wants to go.
Yeah, because obviously you started off from a position where you're thinking, okay, I've got to get in the light. It's got to fall where I want it to fall. It's got to be at a certain level.
Mm-hmm.
And then just kind of work. Because I don't like two stops under or anything else. I deliberately try and get everything as right as I possibly can in camera, because it just means less work.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's okay. So do you think that you actually find, if you have ever used presets, that you have to work harder than if you were to just kind of take the image as it is and work from there?
I think it stifles development, personal development of any kind of processing. If you're just literally just going apply, you're never going to play about that much. Or if you are playing about, you're playing about in somebody else's sandpit, because it's behaving, you know.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, but it's behaving with regards to what they've set, you know, rather than just, I mean, I know how hard it is trying to learn Photoshop and coming in and messing. I mean, God, the tools that they have there, you know, you can absolutely destroy an image in minutes if you want.
Yeah.
But you just have to just kind of take these things one at a time. And you really shouldn't try ripping off anybody else's style, because it just won't work. Because they're never really going to tell you what they do. Even in these tutorials, you know, no one is ever completely honest about their images and stuff, about how they come out the camera a lot of the time. Or they'll present you with a really, really, really good image. They won't say to you, this is an image, right? This is a Photoshop that I absolutely tanked because I was hungover. You know, I couldn't walk properly, couldn't see the viewfinder. Let's try and correct this, and we're still going to sell it to them. You know, that's a tutorial that I'd buy if the images look good at the end of it.
Yeah.
You'd have to really work to get that done.
Yeah. Do you know what? I've got quite a few of the RGG EDU, I think they're now called ProEdu tutorials. I've got a couple of Creative Live ones that I've acquired over the last 6 years. And the one thing I'd say is I'd love to see one where you get to see the pre-production on the actual shoot, where, you know, things are being organized and you get to see the test run of everything and you get to see how they actually deal with problems, as opposed to what normally happens is it's all set up very cleanly. It's been rehearsed. Everyone knows their job. And then when it comes to the shooting, they kind of implant fake problems and they say, oh, if this ever comes up, what you can do is do this. And it's like, okay, but what happens if something comes up that you weren't expecting? What happens if something comes up that's actually a real problem, not just you've moved a light to a stupid position that no one would ever do and now you've moved it back? Yeah,
absolutely. That was always my problem with trying to learn things, because they always learn stuff in these really sterile environments. And whenever I'd shoot, like a light would fall over and it'd break, and I'd have to, my lens would go or something, and I'd just be on the back foot the whole time. I just don't like these manufactured videos. That's why I like people like McNally, who are a bit old school.
Yeah.
Because they go, you move the light there, you do this, that's not working, we do this, you know. And I know I mentioned McNally last time, but he's like, he's one of the proper superstars. He doesn't kind of get the kudos that he deserves now, because you've got loads of these new guys coming up that everyone thinks are so fantastic that actually aren't, you know. But
it's about the flashiness of the presentation. I think one thing I've noticed with YouTube, and I'm trying to figure out a way I could write a blog about this and not be a whiny little bitch, but basically I've noticed that there's a really bizarre correlation people make between the pre-production or the production value of a YouTube video compared to the actual usable content from it. So because the video is shot in 4K and it's, you know, it's lit with gels in the background and there's all this stuff neatly placed and the person that's talking looks like a model, doesn't actually mean that anything they're talking about is worth listening to.
No, agreed. Again, they're just selling you something shiny. You know, if you've got two dog turds and one looks shinier and less messy, you're going to pick up the less messy dog turd. It doesn't matter that it's basically on a pile of diarrhea. You know,
I think if you had two dog turds and you had Fuji written on one and you had like Canon written on another, I think people would argue over which one was better just based on that.
Oh God, don't start me on that. Because I mean, the reason I started with Nikon, I'm sure I just said this to you last time. I said to my father-in-law, "What camera you got?" And he said, "I've got a Nikon." And I was like, "All right." So I went and bought a Nikon. You know.
Yeah.
And I've been with Nikon ever since. And I had someone saying, you know, why don't you go to, what is it, Canon? I said, yeah, give me a Mark D4. Is it 3 mil or whatever it is, 5? Yeah, I'll shoot with that. Give me some lenses. But I've kind of bought into a system. I'm going down that route. I like the Nikon D850. It's an absolutely immense camera.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I like the look of Fuji's and stuff, and I like the look of Sony's. And then what makes me laugh at the Sony's is they have these really tiny bodies, and everyone's going, they're so light. And then you stick a zoom lens on it, and it's still like lugging around a third leg.
Yeah, so basically, I was talking about this a while back with this argument, the advertising point that's been made for years about mirrorless is that it's weight saving. Everything is it's weight saving, it's weight saving, it's weight saving. And it's not. I literally own £5,500 worth of Sony gear. It's sat across the room from me. I'm looking at it right now. Every time you put a lens on the front of it, it's not weight saving. It's just incredibly unbalanced.
Yeah, because I was thinking, because it's just going to tip.
Yeah. Oh, it does. No, you're 100% right. You're 100% right. It's an absolute joke. What happens is you basically learn to compensate to hold everything by the lens. Whereas when I was on Canon, you could hold the body with almost any lens on it and not feel like there was an issue of like flex in the body or anything like that. With mirrorless cameras, and I think it's all of them with the exception of Fuji and Olympus because they are genuinely such small systems. The idea of full frame mirrorless falls apart when you realize that you still need to have a huge piece of glass on the front that's now added to by using extra materials to make up for the flange distance. So all you've got is like an ergonomically shit camera that's claiming to be lighter.
Yeah, it's kind of where I thought it was going to go. But the minute you say it out loud or online, you just get, everyone just descends on you. So, I mean, I've seen people get hounded out of forums just for saying things like that. You know, I don't know why people buy into these systems on a really, really massively personal level. Because I don't know about you, but now I've got to a stage where I'm happy with what I'm shooting and just everything that I'm creating. If someone says to me Nikon shit, I'm just going to go, yeah, whatever. I'm not going to say, oh my God, it changed my life. It's a tool ultimately, and then it kind of I now know that if you give me another tool, I can get around it and stuff. I might not be able to get the exact kind of stuff out of it, but it's just a tool. And
the main problem you'll find if you switch from camera system to camera system, I think the main problem you find is just figuring out the fucking menu system. The rest of it is just it's a camera. God. It's shutter speed, it's aperture, it's ISO. Once you learn where those buttons are and you're not like lost in the menu, it's all the same difference.
Yeah. And obviously on the lower spec cameras, they always find the ISO in the menu. Oh, that really frustrates me. When I try to show someone the camera, and I spend about 10 minutes looking like an idiot going, where's the ISO button?
Well, it's the most dangerous button, right? Because if you get like a newbie that doesn't know what they're doing and they accidentally select ISO 12,800, they're going to have a bad time for pretty much the rest of the time they own that camera. Oh, God, yeah. Also, what I hate is camera snobs. There was, they had those mugs where it says, like, switch it to manual. You'll see real men then. It's like, oh, God. Yeah.
Like
everyone's a photographer till you switch to manual is the T-shirt I always see.
And I roll.
Yeah, and the majority of street photographers I know probably most shoot in aperture priority. The majority of wedding photographers I know probably shoot in aperture priority. I'm someone that does tend to shoot in manual, but it's purely because actually instinctively from the way that I learned photography was I didn't learn from a person. I walked around with a camera and it was in manual, and I used the time walking around with it to learn what aperture was and then what shutter speed was. So I did it the longest possible way that was the most frustrating. But I now find when I switch to aperture priority, or if I switch to shutter priority, I actually feel like I'm a little bit out of my depth.
Yes, no, me too. Absolutely. I did the same thing. I would sit there aiming at my TV, trying to figure out, like, you know, go out in the streets. No, everything was manual for me. And it was because I bought into that, you must not be afraid of manual. I mean, it works, don't get me wrong, but you can't berate people for not understanding manual photography, because it's a long game, you know.
Also, when you're looking at any image online, when I'm looking at anything that I like, I'm not someone that's. If you do this, I do apologize for insulting you, but I'm not sad enough to be looking at the EXIF info and trying to figure out how I can steal their settings or anything like that.
No. Also, it's all a complete and utter lie, because no matter what they shot it with, they could have brought it up a full stop in Photoshop. And they could have dragged the shadows out, and you're looking at the EXIF data thinking, my camera doesn't do that, you know. And it's just, so once I realised that, I was like, it was just a relief to know that basically a lot of it is just absolute trickery, you know, or just technical knowledge rather than trickery. But it used to really do my head in looking at EXIF info, thinking how pixel people's do my head in as well. But so
it's the digital age, I think. I was talking yesterday to a wet plate photographer, and like the perspective he has on photography is just so different, where it's like he has so few shots to get it right. It costs him so much per shot, and he has to really do a lot of like pre-production, in a sense of like making sure that every single variable is under control before he can sort of pull the trigger on a shot. And whereas, like, you know, for people like me, where it's digital, it's just like, well, I could technically just, you know, spray until something decent comes out, and just hope for the best, or fix it all in Photoshop. And I think there's a few too many people that are reliant on that, and there's a few too many people that are reliant on gear saving them from a lack of knowledge. Like, the gear is going to make the photo better, and it just doesn't. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm when I'm shooting in the studio, I'm constantly moving the lights about. And while I'm doing it, I mean, don't get me wrong, I gibber to the models or to the MUA, like everyone. I just try to keep the energy up while I'm moving stuff about, because they're not thinking, does this guy know what you're doing? You know, and when you're saying, you know, it's a game of inches, you move stuff just a few inches, but I want as little processing work to actually do once I get it to my PC, because I want everything to be good. And also, sorry, this is related, but my wife will laugh at this. Just after a shoot, my wife says, how was it? And I'm like, it's okay. And she'll go, you say, oh, no. Put them on the PC. No, they're all right. You know, I do a few stuff of that. When sometimes you don't quite realise what you've got, or you expect every shot to be absolutely perfect. It can't be perfect. And there are going to be highs and lows in shoots where you just need to accept that some of the looks won't be as good as other looks. And you just need to keep positive till you get to your PC and you see the images and think, they're not awful, are they?
I think as well, you get fatigued towards the end of a shoot, and you've mentally exhausted yourself a little bit. So to then it's like reviewing a movie that was 3 hours long the moment it finishes, and being asked to give some kind of long explanation on it. You're just not going to have the mental stamina to do it. You do need to kind of give yourself a break and give yourself the benefit of the doubt and come back. The one problem I do find is I come back and look through images, and I find that I always wanted one that didn't work to be the one. So it might be like a focus issue, or it might be a lighting issue, or a pose issue. And I'm like, that's the one I wanted, but this one issue ruins it. And I almost feel like I'm a spoiled child, where I'm like, I just want the one that I can't have.
No, I get that all the time. I had one the other day, and I was looking at it and I'm thinking, it's just, I don't know whether or not she moved her head, whether I was just over the amount that it couldn't focus. I was like a meter, like one foot or whatever, and it obviously wasn't focusing properly, so it kind of like the focus bled. And this image was the best image from the shoot. I was like, balls. And I was thinking, can I sharpen it? And then you realise, no, just cut it loose. You've got loads of good shots, even if this was the best one. But no, I'm the same. There were always shots that I want that don't work out. And it's not a spoiled child. It's because you want to do the best work that you possibly can, rather than just going to people, have that.
Okay, so I've got a weird question for you. I'm thinking about my portfolio right now. If I was to ask you to put together, say, 12 images for a portfolio out of all of the images that you have, how old would the oldest image that would make that portfolio be?
Interestingly, I got lucky with a shoot. And I was literally just, when I was wandering around, like it was like Kevin and Perry when he set my camera, like, hello, Michael Paul, taking pictures down near London Bridge. And this guy basically was sitting there. He was one of the actors or entertainers. I'm not really sure how you refer to them in like the London Dungeons. And he was just kind of sitting there having a cigarette, and that must be nearly 8 years old. And that would definitely be in my portfolio. Just because he's kind of sitting there, he's having a cigarette. He's got a military jacket on as well, just like black dude, and he just looks super cool. And even though he's not the most technically proficient shot, because I basically got lucky, I still love the shot.
Yeah,
I converted to black and white because I absolutely adore black and white shots when they're done properly. Rather than just making something black and white to try and achieve something that looks cool.
Well, it's funny because I've been looking back over my portfolio, and I'm kind of, obviously now is the time everyone's going back over old RAW files and trying to dig out hidden gems and whatnot. And I was just having a look at my portfolio, and I realized that probably 3 or 4 of my favorite images, maybe 3 of the top 5 favorite images, were shot between 2015 and 2017. And I'm trying to decide whether that's because I've just got progressively worse, if I was hitting a sweet spot, or if I was just incredibly lucky.
I don't know. Sometimes you get more engaged. Also, I do find the further I'm away from my previous body of work, the more I can appreciate it. The last stuff I've did, the recent stuff I've shot, I don't know. I can't see it properly, if it makes sense. I can't judge it on its own merit. So
it needs to stew for a bit.
Yeah, but also, I don't know about you, every image I've got of mine, I can see flaws in. I look at it and... Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah.
And when people say, oh, that's really good, you're just like,
Except for this, and this, and I don't like that, and I wish I'd have done that differently. And
yeah, but that aside, it's great, yeah. But when you say that, people think you're being immodest, when in fact you are just going, oh, God, have I produced a pile of turd,
Yeah.
And it's really hard. But the older stuff now, I kind of appreciate it for where I was. Because I used to wander around London at like sort of 4:30 in the morning, taking loads of pictures. And I realised actually I've got some absolute belters from that time. Whereas at the time I was thinking, oh God, the ISO was too high, it's too noisy, this, that, and the other. Now I can look back and just go, whoa, I really, really dig those. And I'm hoping I will look back in a few years and won't be sick all over my body of work from now.
It's been amazing to have you back on. Honestly, I'm so glad to hear from you. Hopefully we'll do more of this in the future. What I do need from you, I need 2 things. Firstly, because everyone's stuck at home, I need you to recommend a film for everybody.
Oh my God, a film. Don't watch the latest Star Wars. It's an absolute humdinger of a pile of poo.
Really?
Yeah, oh God, it's like best of. It was like made by Reddit. It's really awful. Honestly, it really is. Can I give a few? I watched the new Emma the other day.
Yep.
The Jane Austen, that's absolutely brilliant. It's so funny. It really, really is. Honestly, just
you can now get that on Prime, I believe, right?
You can, yes. Obviously, because offshore cinemas are all shut.
Yeah, so, tell me about it. Yeah.
Yeah, Napoleon Dynamite. If you've not seen it, watched that again recently. Absolute
classic.
Absolute classic. Yeah. I've been going back revisiting loads of the old stuff. There's like a really, really sketchy French kind of James Bond like Mickey take called RSS 117. And those are really good as well.
Okay.
Oh God, there's so many things. Oh, honestly, if this was a film podcast, I could go on for ages.
Well, don't give any spoilers away, but that is the plan for me and Jamila and one other person very soon. We're actually going to be starting a film podcast. But no, and the last thing I need from you.
Yeah, sorry.
Say that again, sorry?
If you want someone to sit on, colour me in. I'll be in for that as well. Absolutely.
We'll definitely talk. And the last thing I need from you is where everyone can find your work, please.
Yes, I'm really easy to find because I'm the only Andrew Clifton-Brown. So my website is andrewcliftonbrown.co.uk. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. I've got a personal account and a business account. Personal account, I don't quite post so much public stuff just because it's kind of personal. And yeah, you can just generally find me knocking about in my house at this moment in time and for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, TBA. Amazing. Thank you so much. You're an absolute legend. I really appreciate this.
Oh, you're an absolute star, Kris. Thank